Welcome back to CFO Weekly, where we're talking with financial leaders about how to build efficiency in their teams, create time for strategy, and ultimately get results. With your host, Megan Weis. Let's jump right in.
Today, my guest is Chermaine Hu. Chermaine is the CFO and co-founder of Episode 6. As such, she is responsible for the global finance and accounting functions, as well as M&A and investor activities. Prior to E6, Chermaine was an M&A banker at Morgan Stanley in both London and New York. Chermaine, thank you very much for being my guest today on this episode of CFO Weekly.
Awesome. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, today we're going to hear your origin story and discuss your experience in co-founding Episode 6, which is a modern payment technology solution. We'll also touch on your role at E6 today, general issues in payments, and the modernization of the payments industry. I'm really looking forward to learning from you, and we have a lot to cover, so let's jump right in.
Great.
First of all, can you tell us about your education and your career path, and what prompted this shift for you into fintech?
Sure. And I'm going to start from the beginning because I think the beginning kind of explains the journey a little bit.
Yep.
So I'm from Hong Kong, born and raised there until I was 14, when my parents sent me to boarding school in the UK. And oftentimes when I tell people that, they're like, what did you do? Why did your parents send you away? And that's a pretty normal thing back then because Hong Kong was a British colony and very small, and the sort of educational options were limited. So when parents came, they always send their kids away. So I was sent away. But that was actually a very, in my mind, a transformational experience for me because I think had I stayed in Hong Kong and went on with my education there, I probably would be a very different person and probably would have a very different career and life path. So from the point of age 14, I studied in the UK, went to boarding school, and then went to university there. I was a math and science geek, probably still am. And so I studied engineering at university. Very excited, very hungry always for like opportunities to solve problems, which I very much think about math and science as like a problem solving training ultimately. And so when towards the end of my time at university looking for job opportunities, the time was very different from now where there are a lot of, I think, technology, engineering jobs that are very interesting with high growth opportunity ahead of them. Whereas then I couldn't find anything in the engineering field that made me feel like, I will continue to be able to learn, to grow, and to do different things. So I went down a different path and went into investment banking. So I was an M&A banker at Morgan Stanley for 14 years, started in London, spent about 8 years there. But then I always felt that if I was working for a global US bulge bracket bank, I have to work in New York. And so I asked my boss at the time in London, I want to move. And he was like, okay, sure. So a couple of months later, I ended up in New York and I spent another probably 6 years or so working at the bank there. And I love my career as an M&A banker because to me, it's also very much about solving problems, but also about just rapid learning across like many, many different areas from the like really technical, doing valuation analysis, crunching numbers to just figuring out how to deal with people, how to get people to help you, how to organize processes, how to negotiate contracts. It's just so much to learn. And that's that expectation of, I don't care whether you're just fresh graduate out of college or you have worked for 10 years. That's just that expectation of you're here working for us. You go figure out how to do things. And so I love that because it's just such a rapid learning, high growth environment for my own sort of professional career. And towards the end of those 14 years that I spent at the bank, I think that what I was experiencing was really kind of towards the end of my learning curve. As doing M&A, I felt I had learned a lot of things, not that I knew everything, but in terms of the type of things that I wanted to learn, wanted to grow in, that there wasn't too much more of that for me. And so it also felt like a point in time where I want to do something, not just for my clients' service in financial services, but want to do something that's more for myself, for the company that I work for in a more impactful way. So out of luck, I got a job opportunity at a financial technology company, very small one in Austin. And so that really started my fintech career. And that was where I met my two partners who worked with me in starting episode 6 8 years ago. So should I pause there for a second? I mean, that felt like a very long history of my life.
Yeah, no. That's an amazing career that you just laid out. So tell us, what was the inspiration behind episode 6? What was it about problems out there that you wanted to help solve?
Yeah, sure. So the three of us were working together at the company that I joined. And I think that was also in the financial technology space. And my partners actually have a lot more experience than I did at the time in the payments and fintech space. But, having worked together for a little bit, just looking at the evolution of the industry, I think it was just blatantly clear to us that there's a huge opportunity out there in terms of providing better technology to the client base that we serve. And we serve banks, we serve brands and companies that need to put out financial and payment products. It was just very much lacking in the industry in terms of technology that can support them to actually put out solutions, products that their customers actually want or need. It's just a function of a lot of legacy technology platforms being very restrictive in terms of how people can design the products to actually address the needs of the customers. And so we felt that there's this giant, enormous opportunity there that we know, we thought we knew the solutions to. So we decided to, let's just do it. We have no funding, no nothing, but we can quit our jobs and start this company. And that's what we did 8 years ago. And so I think
that takes some guts.
Yeah. But I think also very strong beliefs in our own selves, but also just the opportunity was so clear to us. And I think as you think about how technology, not just in the fintech world, but technology in the world, how that has changed over the last 10, 20 years is amazing. And yet the payments industry didn't seem to be able to keep up with that. So it seems obvious to us that that is something that we can do. And again, with the experience that my partners had in particular in terms of building technology and working with the client base that we right now are also targeting, we felt we knew what the steps are to take to build a platform that is actually something that our clients would want and can leverage and can use to put out really, really good products for their end customers. And at the same time, I think we felt we know the market well enough to know how to bring it to market. Because selling to banks is not easy. Selling brand new technology that no one has ever used is even harder. So we were fortunate enough to be able to really overcome some of those challenges that I think a lot of young startup companies had. But yeah, that felt like a very long time ago, but that's what we did.
Yeah. And speaking of challenges, so what have you found to be most rewarding and on the flip side, most challenging about the business startup process?
Yeah, I think one aspect of it, which I think you can look at it as a challenge, but to me is also really rewarding, is every day I am making decisions that affects things. And it sounds trivial, but there are small decisions that I just need to make day in, day out. But there are also big decisions that we collectively as a team, as a company needs to make. And depending on how we make that choice, the outcome can impact the entire company. So I think it's the very direct impact of what we do or what we don't do that is rewarding, hopefully, when you get it right. But it's also challenging because sometimes you just don't know. Sometimes you use your best judgment because we have never experienced this before. But that's also the fun part of it, because it's like if you do something that you know so well, you can do it with your eyes closed, it's probably not that fun. And I would say, I think the other challenge that for smaller companies in particular is to find the right people, the right talent to join your team, in particular when you're growing very quickly. And, we have grown very quickly globally. So sitting in the US, needing to build out our team in Japan is not easy. It's like, how do you find that guy in Japan that can run your team out there? Don't know, but we figure it out. So there are a lot of challenges along the way, but, kind of back to my whole, I love to problem solve, and I think my partners do too. I think we're just solving one problem at a time as we continue to grow the company.
And can you tell us a little bit about your role, which is CFO, how maybe investment banking prepared you for that role? And also, I hear like a lot of engineers that progress to the CFO role these days. So maybe just a little bit about how those two things play into what you do today.
Yeah, I don't know. I never feel like I'm very qualified as a CFO compared with some of the other CFOs. I know a lot of them have very long background in accounting and then in actually running finance functions in organizations. But I would say, kind of not to keep dwelling on problem solving, I think running a finance function, which is actually not my only job, I'm responsible for all our corporate functions, so including legal and our HR people function as well. To me, it's a lot about you obviously need to have some baseline skills and experiences, but most of the work that we need to do as a team, under finance, under legal, under people, a lot of times it's really applying common sense to sort of day-to-day problems, but also with some unique functional experience that comes with that. So I would say, I think I, again, have been fortunate in terms of being able to hire really strong leadership folks to help me run those functions. I have a great controller, a great general counsel, and a great team of people specialists as well. And so I think it's really knowing what my responsibility is as the leader of all those functions, but also leaning on the teams that I have who have special experiences and skills in those areas to do the best we can in supporting the company in those functions.
And what have been the greatest successes of the business so far, and where are you guys hoping to take the business in the future?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I think the fact that we're 8 years old and we're still doing really well, I think is a testament to what we have achieved. I want to say, I think when the three of us sat around and we were thinking about how to build a company, how to name the company, I don't think we never really thought that we would now have, about 200 people globally that are within our organization. So, and the fact that we have all these clients across the world using our platform. So I think that's something I think we feel very proud of. But I think importantly also that we do believe that our technology is changing the space in a meaningful way in terms of being able to really help our clients get the right products out there based on the newer way of using technology, everyone doing things on their smartphones, transactions, shopping, trading, everything. But it doesn't just happen. And it is not just about having a pretty UI, pretty app, right? You need the back end to work. And we are that back end to support all these new cool products that people really love, people really like, and people use every day. So I think other than just looking at ourselves as a company having grown so much, I think we are fundamentally changing the industry that we are in. So I think that to us is really the most exciting part of, having built this company from the ground up. And then I think in terms of looking forward, we closed out our Series C round earlier this year. So, really at a point in time where we are looking at a new phase of growth ahead of us. I think we're very excited about the team we have and the work that we have done to kind of get to here. And so looking at 12, 24 months, we're looking at really significantly increasing the size of the company, the size of our client base globally. So a lot of work, but exciting times ahead of us.
Yeah, sounds like it. Curious, where did the name Episode 6 come from?
Probably shouldn't have thought that up. So when we were discussing what a good name is, and I can promise you there were many other ones before we got to this one, the reason we got to this was among Charles Fute and I, my two partners and myself, I think we felt we collectively had done 5 meaningful things before we get to this episode. So this is the 6th episode for us. So hence episode 6, E6.
Yeah, I like it. So switching gears a little bit, let's talk about diversity and gender and what your view is of both in fintech and finance.
Yeah. So, I mean, I've experienced it really since college, right? When I went to study engineering, I think I was maybe female or 10% probably of the entire sort of class. When I went to being an M&A banker, very few female in particular. The more senior you go, the fewer women are in those positions. And, as I started my journey at episode 6, I remember every investor meeting, pretty much every meeting that I went to felt like we were just talking to a lot of male executives, male investors. And so, I think the women population among a lot of these areas are still relatively small, but I do feel that it has changed over the last decade. I was just actually on a few calls with one of our global partners, and I was telling the group that I was with, I was so impressed and slightly amazed. And I guess kind of the fact that I have to make that statement speaks to the status of the world today. But every meeting that I've been on with their global team, in the US or in APAC is all female. And I was like, I have not had that experience ever with any other companies that we have been working with. So I do think that is a gradual shift. And I think obviously we all want that to shift faster. But I do think that the more women are in the workplace and in particular in more senior positions so that they can influence the hiring decisions, promotion decisions, is going to help drive the increase of women representation across the board. I think that's a little bit of human aspect that we need to just remember. I don't think it's built-in bias, but it's just we as people generally prefer the knowns than the unknowns. And I think if a lot of men are making decisions about hiring, about promotion, maybe the more known entities to them are still men. But at the same time, I think when there are more women able to be at the table making those decisions, then I think that shift is going to occur. And hopefully we soon don't have to talk about this type of diversity conversations in the future.
Yes, that'll be a good day. So what do you attribute the growth of women in the profession to, or the industry? And what can we do more of to encourage females to enter the space and stick with it?
Yeah, I believe it's just I'm not the expert in this area, but my personal belief is just a change in society's perspective of a woman's position at home versus in the workplace. And I think 30, 40 years ago for my mom, definitely the perception is that the more normal place you should be at is home. And so I think that has changed dramatically over time. And I think with increasing education opportunities for men and women being financially independent, that just a lot of, I think, fundamental drivers that resulted in the increasing representation of women across the workforce at any rate. But I also think that the sort of educational aspect and being able to be financially independent means that women can make choices about, I'm going to stay at work too. I'm going to focus on my own career. I don't know if I have the right answer for this, but that's my belief. I don't think it's one thing or another, other than it's just as society changes in terms of perception.
And switching gears again, but what tech innovations are you seeing right now? And where do you envision fintech delivering the most value for finance in the future?
Yeah, I look at innovation, they're quite similar to what we have done in our industry. I don't think we have reinvented the wheel. We have just built technology to do the same thing, like processing transactions, providing digital ledger to banks, just doing it in a cheaper, better, and faster way. And because of the sort of also underlying technology transformation that has happened, like things can be in the cloud now. You don't have to go to a data center. And with that, there are different ways to build technology to do things that people have been doing for the last century. And so I think that similar to what we're doing, I think I'm seeing just a lot of other tools, a lot of like technology platforms out there that are just helping you to do things in a better and easier and therefore cheaper way as well.
And looking at the rapid evolution of technology and now artificial intelligence, do you think that those things are presenting any specific challenges or risks that finance leaders should be aware of? And if so, how should they overcome them?
Yeah, I think it's definitely, to me, it's a positive overall in terms of the innovation in those areas, because I think it's going to drive efficiency and really improve upon a lot of things that we're doing today. We can probably do it a lot easier going forward. But I would say with most things that are new, just knowing how they should apply, how they should be regulated, typically are the pitfalls. And so I think, for example, AI, we are watching that very carefully. In software, we definitely don't want our engineers to be using ChatGPT to code and things like that. But at the same time, there's also uses for AI for other aspect of our business that we are considering that can drive efficiency and just make what we do better going forward. So definitely overall a net positive in my mind, but certainly I think we need to keep an eye on it as those areas continue to develop across the world.
And what's your advice for CFOs on how to best keep up with the rapid pace of technology change?
Yeah, I think it's just to keep an open mind about how to do things, because I think probably good for me that I don't have that long CFO accounting background. So every time someone brings something new to me, I'm like, oh yeah, I want to try that out to see how that goes. And there are a lot of new tools, new technology that we are using now that didn't exist probably even 5 years ago. And it's really helped us in terms of like operational aspect of what we do. So with that in mind, we are always on the lookout for new things, and just being, staying in the know is very important. And I think with how things are changing so quickly across so many industries today.
And I'm just curious, but for the people that are out there listening, how would they know if they need your product or not? How would they know if E6 is the right solution for what it is that challenges them?
I would say anyone who's thinking about building new financial payment products, come talk to us, because if you work with potentially other providers, they probably would give you a laundry list of what you can do. Whereas I think with us, we would rather hear what you want to do, and then we can tell you whether we can do it or not. And generally the answer is yes. So I think if you're coming up with something new, then we are the right partner for you. But I would say also anyone who currently are working with other vendors who are not particularly happy for whatever reasons, we're also here to hear what your challenges are, because I think we understand pretty well in terms of the industry pain points that most clients are facing in terms of long lead time before anything can be changed, just very restrictive in terms of how to configure their products, a lot of limitations around things that you never think as, well, you can't do that because the platform won't let you. So I think that a lot of reasons to even just have a conversation with us, because I would say a lot of our customers, once they started digging into what we can do, the first reaction is, I don't believe you, because can't be. Like, no one can do this. And when we show them how it's actually done, then they're amazed and they stay with us. They never go away anymore because they don't have to. So having that first conversation would answer a lot of questions.
Yeah, what a refreshing way of looking at things. Like, what is it that the client actually needs, and listening. So props to you guys. So what advice would you give to aspiring entrepreneurs in the payment space? Or just in general?
Yeah, I think long and hard, and make sure you fully understand what your passion is, what you feel so strongly about before quitting your day job to start a company, because it's not easy. Like, raising money is hard, doing business is hard, growing a team is hard. It's really hard. But at the same time, I think if you believe what you believe strongly enough, and you also actually, I think the other piece is have a team of people, or at least have a few people that can work with you and have the same beliefs as you. Like, I was very fortunate to have two partners who really believe in the same thing. Then it could be, and it will be, a very rewarding experience, whether, ultimately the company is successful or not. Because I do think a lot of folks start out on their own and they may or may not fully appreciate that you can never grow a company on your own. And at the same time, with a lot of challenges ahead of you, you need to firmly believe that that's the right path to go down, because otherwise you're just going to quit, or it's just going to be really hard. So I think it's just really look inside and make sure that's really what you want before you start.
That's some great advice. So last question, but as you look out into the future, what is it that keeps you up at night? What concerns you about what's coming?
I don't want to be flippant, but nothing. I mean, I sleep really well at night because I know there's so many things ahead of us to do tomorrow. So I want to be well rested. But I would say, I think that there really isn't anything in particular that we haven't thought about, that we are worried about. And I think ultimately we feel we have set up our business and our approach to business a really solid way. And so, yeah, we don't know what we don't know, but we are worried.
Great answer. So Chermaine, thank you so much for sharing your time and experience with us today.
Yeah, thank you, Megan. Thanks for the opportunity. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, I really enjoyed speaking with you, and I wish you and E6 much success in the future. And to all of our listeners, please tune in next week. And until then, take care.
Hey, thank you so much, Megan.
If you're ready to boost efficiency and streamline your accounting processes at significant cost savings, it's time to talk with Personiv. Their people-powered solutions have transformed the delivery of back-office tasks and general accounting functions for decades, partnering with clients to provide everything from accounts payable to payroll services. See what Personiv can do for you by visiting personiv.com.
You've been listening to CFO Weekly, presented by Personiv. Please subscribe wherever you get your podcasts to hear all of our episodes. Want to learn more? Check out personiv.com. Thanks for listening.